Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Love Move Podcast. We got a great show for you today. We got a special guest, Shanita Straw, and she's going to break it down to us how the game works for the real estate law and all the financial services that she offers with probate. But I got the hottest goddess with me, and she turned me on live, and I'm talking to, and she just smiling.
I like to do that.
She just smiling. But hey, listen, Money Mind and Toya Capri, she took a break. She took a little vacation, and we hope she have fun. God bless you. Do what you got to do. Yeah, you need it. You enjoy it. So a little R&R. We want to thank our supporters and all the people that follow us, and man, it's good to get up and see these many people. You look on your social media and all these people following you, and it's just a beautiful thing. So we like, giving people an opportunity that's doing some positive things in the community, in the Chicagoland area, and share their stories and their information. But we also want to thank our sponsors. We have some of the great sponsors. We got the Blue Note. We got 717. We got Violet Shot, a new dispensary in the area, and they got specials that they do daily. And then we have the View, and the View have new things every night. I was there Tuesday. They have ceviche. So, okay. Oh my God, it was good. I say, what days y'all gonna be? She said on Tuesday, like their little taco Tuesday. So they do taco ceviche. So they're doing a lot of things. And
Are you referring to the dish, or is that
it's ceviche. It's
ceviche.
Yeah. It's
ceviche. That's what it's called. It's like a soupy salsa.
No,
it's supposed to be.
No, that's, I don't know. But anyway, it's a bunch of shrimp,
ceviche. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It wasn't soup. It was on the tortilla.
The original ceviche is supposed to be like soupy. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the way we like it thick, because it's something you can dip your chips in.
Yeah, well, they put this on top of a tortilla.
Trying to act like you got some exposure. Saying it wrong.
Yeah, I don't know nothing too much. But anyway. And then we want to say Broadview for the Juneteenth, June 14th through the 16th. They'll be offering that to the community. So you guys come out for that. And man, it's been a good week here. The Shy, they drafted these two girls.
Chicago's
the Sky, the Chicago Sky. I said the Shy in the Sky from the Shy. But anyway, Angel Reese. We got Angel Reese, and we got the girl from South Carolina. I don't remember her name.
I know.
She's
why we be
Puerto
doing
Rican
that? Because she ain't our people.
Yeah, she is our people.
What's her name again?
Cordoba.
Yes, with the K.
Cardoso. See, I was in the neighborhood. Do you watch basketball?
I don't.
You don't.
But it's about to get fun.
Yeah.
So it's going to be something to watch.
I just want to share this. A lot of people they're not pushing the envelope on this. There's a lady named Moore that went to school in South Carolina from 75 to 79, and she scored 4,061 points, more than Caitlin Clark. But there's still the reporters, and nobody want to push the envelope and mention it. So I'm gonna push the envelope. It's a sister out there that got more points than Caitlin Clark on record. So I was wondering why they don't want to push that. Why Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp, and why they don't want to give the accomplishment to the sister that really has the record. Why do you think that the hottest goddess? Why you think?
Why do I think what?
That they don't want to put that information out there. They keep giving it to Caitlin Clark about the scoring record.
Me personally, I don't know, but I would think for marketing purposes, she might be a better person to market.
So you're saying times have changed, and I look at it as that they're not recognizing us for the history that we make.
A lot of people, even now with marketing, people go off popularity.
Yeah,
and her name is ringing, so that's what's going to sell. Yes, that's just my opinion.
But it's just what they're selling is not the truth,
right?
And that's the difference.
And if they bring it up, now something from the 70s is going to dim her light. And that's going to make her less marketable, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. What I'm saying is that it's like a favor,
Mm-hmm.
it's all, and you know, not to be rude or anything, a white privilege almost, because this young lady, Miss Moore, it's in black and white that she got the record.
Yeah.
But you're not acknowledging her, and what I'm saying is on the major networks, the major ESPNs, the ABCs, NBCs, whatever the case might be, on social media, everybody know who she is. So it's one of those things. But listen, we got Shanita with us today, and Shanita is a general practice lawyer with a bunch of things under her title. She do probate, she do trust, she do all that, and we're gonna let her tell her stories.
Shanita Straw with Golden Law.
For Golden.
Yes.
Why you ain't do a rap about it?
I know, I had to say
You
it
should have
right.
had it. But anyway, Shanita, welcome. We appreciate you, and tell us who you are and what you doing.
Well, like you said, my name is Shanita Straw. I am the owner and founder of Golden Law. And I've been in practice for, I think this is year 14, 15.
Oh,
Yeah, might be year 15. And I started, right at my dining room table. And then I went from there, to offices in Chicago, downtown. And then I made my way back into the neighborhoods in 2017 in Oak Park. And then we got the opportunity to buy the building at 2121 Roosevelt. It was offered for sale through the Cook County Land Bank. And so my husband and I, we, went to look at it. I'm like, oh, you think I should, move to Broadview? And so the biggest thing was, ownership, and then being able to have something, that is ours, where we could, no longer paying, rent to somebody else. We're investing in ourselves and our family. And it was a no-brainer.
Is your husband a lawyer too?
He is not.
He's not a
He's
lawyer.
not a lawyer.
He's just a good guy, huh? That look out for his wife.
Yeah.
Right on
You
to all
better
the
act
good
right.
guys.
Yeah.
You know.
He has some act right. He's actually, he was a truck driver, but now he's a trainer. He trained truck drivers. And so, man, we bought the building from the land bank. We went through the rehab. It was pretty quick. It wasn't that bad from start to finish, probably about 9 months.
Okay.
And, it's bigger than where we are. The plan is, to grow. And that's just where we are.
And so the services that you provide to the community, protect their property, protect their resources, protect their money. Explain to us, how did that process work?
Sure.
If me as a senior citizen, I'm gonna go, because you did close on my house. I mean, you was that lawyer, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it right.
Okay.
And you got that married couple, and you got that single young lady that's trying to get it right. Tell us what we need. What's the process?
My practice is a general practice. And so with general practice firms, the areas that I practice primarily are real estate, probate, estate planning. I do evictions, landlord side. It's the nature of the beast. Yeah. And then we also do some employment discrimination, and then of course business law, because all of those things are wrapped up. So my goal, or my primary focus in my my target area are basically people like us, families, mid to upper level, income, because at some point in time, you need some of those services, family law, divorce, all of those things. So from a real estate perspective, I handle all type of real estate, residential, commercial. And so we do, attorneys come in from, contract after the contract is entered with your real estate agent. We do the negotiations. And then, of course, we represent you at closing to make sure that, the seller has done everything that they need to do in order to transfer title, to the buyer. And if we represent the buy side, we make sure that the seller, gives you everything that you need so that you're in ownership. There's no liens on title. We go through your loan paperwork with you at closing. And then, after the fact, we make sure that the title company has, recorded the deed that proves your ownership, and then that the mortgage, if you have a mortgage, has been recorded. And so in line with those things, we do estate planning. So estate planning is where you have, wealth preservation, where you're trying to avoid probate. So, the less assets that you have in your name, at your date of death, the less likely it is that, you'll have to open up a probate estate, and then your assets can transfer to your heirs, by operational law, which is ideal. Or, depending on your circumstance, your financial scenario, it might make sense to have like a full estate plan where you have a will, you have power of attorneys for property, healthcare, maybe a living trust wrapped with a land trust, some irrevocable trust. It just kind of depends. We actually just had a seminar, September 16th, I believe it was. What month is this? No, March.
April.
So it would have been March 16th. We just had a seminar. It was a estate and business planning seminar where we went over all of those things. We had someone there from the banking industry. We had marketers there to help people, give them tips on, growing their business, especially in the age of, social media and things like that. And then, of course, I handled the probate and the estate planning.
And that's so interesting, because a lot of police officers, they used to say, "Hey, man, I'm putting my house in trust," because they could get sued, and then they could lose their property.
But not only that, for police officers and detectives and, people, that are out there, chasing down the bad guys, your address is public record. So one of the things that putting your home in the trust, especially a land trust, provides for you is privacy protection. So individuals in law enforcement, especially, in order to keep your, address and information out the public records, those are, that's a feature that, a lot, you would want to use a land trust for.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Did folks know your address?
Yeah, well, I lived in town.
Yeah.
So that was, I parked my squad car.
Did you ever have any instances?
I had my tire slashed.
Oh, God.
I had my sign out of my yard. They stole my sign, whatever the case might be. But it was good that I had people that knew people, and I found out who did it.
Okay.
And then so that was another thing. But the problem that we had is that if you actually did something to a citizen and their lawyer can prove that you were at fault, they could take your house. Am I right? And those were some of the things that we put our houses in trust and stuff like that.
So those are judgments. So if you end up being sued, personally, and you end up with a money judgment, that money judgment can then be reduced to a memorandum of judgment, and it can be recorded against real property. And so that's how you end up having a judgment against your house.
And you protect those type of things.
I try my best,
right.
but here's the other thing that you have to remember. The legal system is just that. So if you have attorneys who know what they're doing, asset wise, when they do citations to discover assets, you have to list those. It all boils down to your to how you hold title to a house. So if you're married and you have hold title as joint tenants, or married as tenants by the entirety, then it's less likely that a tortfeasor would be able to put a lien against your house for a judgment or something like that. But if there's a tenant in common interest, or if it's investment property that you don't keep separate from your own personal assets, then that's problematic. So that's where it makes sense if you're going to have like a LLC or something like that, if you're doing business outside of your personal residence.
So what made you, out of all of the different laws and practices that you could have did, you didn't want to do criminal? What made you go to the general law?
So it's crazy. When I started out, I was working as a paralegal while I was applying, trying to get into law school. And so I always worked for general practice attorneys. And so the good thing about it is you got a taste of,
A little bit of
a
everything.
little bit of everything. And so I was just able to, kind of decide which areas of practice I like, more than others. Criminal law, I just, weeded that off the back because I wasn't interested.
Right.
Listen, I would leave that alone, but I just wasn't interested in
Okay.
in
I
the whole
understand.
in the criminal stuff. I didn't want to defend criminals. I didn't want to prosecute criminals. I just, want to leave that to the people that do it.
Right.
But real estate just ended up being a passion, because it brings joy. Number one, especially the first time home buyers. I really love first time home buyers because for most people, your biggest asset is the house that you purchase.
Right.
And you want to be able to leave that, house, to your family. People work hard, to try to pay off 30-year mortgages. And for those that are fortunate enough to do it, you want it to be left to someone because that's basically your legacy that you're leaving to your heirs to give them something, at least to start off on, if nothing else. Family law is kind of it's kind of like, eviction is like the nature of the beast. You have to do some of that stuff because you get people that you might know in relationship with, family members that might need your services. And so, sometimes you just have to take those just to do it. I'm very selective when it comes to those because family law is emotional and it's time consuming and it kind of wears on you, after a while. And people, when they're emotional, coming through divorce and when children are involved, sometimes you're irrational.
Yeah.
And so it caused for you to make, very bad decisions where you waste more money.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, spending it on attorneys arguing.
Been there, done. Listen, my cousin, she went through a divorce also, and her lawyer told her, I wish my lawyer would have told me this. You can either buy me a computer or you can buy me a Mercedes.
Oh my
Yep.
God.
That's what she told us. She
Yep.
said, you and him work it out.
Yep.
And get the whatever you guys work out because as long as you keep coming to my office, you got to pay.
And I tell clients that all the time. I say, here's the thing. How long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost you depends on how much you argue and how much you fight over, what you have. I've had, judges explain it, to, clients when we're in, pretrial conferences when they just don't want to listen. You could either save this money that you're going to pay to go to trial to send your kid to college, or you can send this attorney's kid to college. Sometimes they, will be like, okay, fine, and they'll settle. Sometimes they fight to the death. It kind of just depends, on the people and whether they've, let the emotion go.
Yeah, and then since we sharing that, my thing was when I walked into the courtroom for the trial date, the judge said we're not having a trial.
Mm-hmm.
He said this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna do this. You gonna do this. Whatever the case might be, he wouldn't give the lawyers no more money that they already had.
And you probably know why. The reason that probably happened is because when you go to trial and you certify for trial, the judges want to know what are the issues. And so if you solved everything except for, 2 issues, and these are, issues, where it makes no sense and the judge is going to rule on it anyway based off the evidence, which, if you go to a pretrial, you've already told them what the evidence is anyway. It makes no sense. It's just a waste of judicial resources and a waste of time. But, if clients don't want to agree, the judge can't force you to settle a case. They can't, they can't force that. It's just that in your scenario, you guys probably was like, okay, fine, we're just going to be done.
Yeah,
But,
it was time.
Yeah,
I was hurt, but it was time. It was.
Listen,
Like
I had a case.
Shanice
I had a
said.
case settled right before the judge was about. She was talking. All right, she just started listing off the assets, sell it, and then the other side was just like, okay, hold on, we're gonna settle, because she was just splitting the assets straight on down the middle.
There you go.
And
And
sometimes
that's
it takes that.
So when I got a young lady and a young man in their 40s, and they're trying to be that first time homeowner, what process would you tell them to go through? They found the house, they want to buy the house. This is their first process. How would you tell them to protect their property?
So you have to start thinking about protecting an asset before you actually find it. So because if you want to put your house in a trust, especially a land trust, you have to have a lender that's willing to that will let you put your house and take title in a land trust, because there are certain things that have to happen before you get to the closing table.
Now, I heard you say land trust. What does that mean? What is land trust?
So a land trust basically is something that's unique to Illinois and 10 other states, I believe, where your legal title is in a land trust, Chicago Title Land Trust, under agreement dated, blah, 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 and have a number, and then under agreement dated. And so the land trust would be the legal owner. And then you would be the beneficiary of the land trust. So that when you transition, your property can pass down to whoever you name as beneficiary by beneficiary designation outside of probate. It also keeps your name out of the public record. So the land trust would be recorded as the legal owner on the deed. And then when the mortgage is recorded, the land trust would be the mortgagor on the deed. You would still sign the note, but that mortgage, the note, and then some ancillary documents that the lender will require in order to protect themselves will have to be signed by the trustee of the land trust before closing. And so the reason why lenders don't like to utilize or let you close in a land trust is because they like to package them. If you go to brokers, they like to package the loans and sell them. And so sometimes they can't sell them in, a living trust. Or in a land trust. And when it comes to, so we basically say if you want to take title in land trust, you have to use what we call land trust friendly lenders. And those are lenders that know about land trusts, that accept land trusts, and don't package the loans to sell them. Or if they do package them to sell them, they'll sell them to an investor that'll allow for land trust.
Okay. And then you said living trust.
Mhm.
What is a living trust?
So a living trust, I like to tell people, is kind of like, just think of it as a person or corporation. Anything that you can do in your personal name or individual capacity, you could do it with a living trust. So a living trust can buy property, it can sell. It's the trustee that does it, because you have a trustee that is named. And usually if it's a living trust, it's you during your lifetime, or you and the spouse, whoever you name. And so it can hold title to property, it can hold bank money and bank accounts, cars, anything that you can do in a corporation or your individual name, pretty much you can do in a living trust. The reason why I don't advocate for people to put their houses in a living trust is because they're expensive, because they have to be drawn up by an attorney, and you have to make sure that the formalities are there for it to be valid. And because it can hold different assets. It's used as more of an estate planning tool. And so when it comes to tortfeasors and trying to make sure that you're not sued, or make it harder for people to get at your assets, if you had this Chris Brown, living trust, and your living trust had, your bank account, it had your car, it had, your annuity, all in its name. Or because what you do is you fund the trust. If you fund your trust with all those things, then that's basically letting the world know that you got assets and where to find them. And so once you put that in the public record, it's forever there. So with land trusts, you don't have that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And land trust can only hold real property.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'll work. What's up, kid? How you feel about that?
No, I'm listening.
Yeah.
But she did mention something about business law. You also practice business law.
Mhm.
Can you give me a scenario of when an entrepreneur like myself would need a business lawyer?
So I like to tell people, when you're organizing, most people think that the easiest part or the only thing you need to do to start a business is to file articles of organization or articles of incorporation with the Secretary of State. Both of those documents, limited liability companies and corporations, they have, formal documents that you need to have. If you're LLC and it's more than you always need to have an operating agreement, because that's basically, it tells the world and it protects you and, the other members when it comes to how it's supposed to be run, how profits are supposed to be split, if you're going to do how payments are going to be made, if you're going to disassociate, you need to have that in place. Without that, you're stuck with, the state law, and you have nothing to govern it by. if you're trying to build or grow your business, when you go to get loans or, anything like that, they ask you for your operating agreement because they want to know what is the plan, right? When you're a corporation, you have to have, the shareholder minutes, you have to have your bylaws, you have to have your director, consents. And then sometimes if there's multiple shareholders, you want to have shareholder agreements because when it comes, everything is good when everybody getting along, but when individuals start to, not get along, when you start to transition off, those shares are owned, they're transferable, so if you transition, then your heirs are entitled to those shares. And so the goal when it comes to business is to grow and for it to have some sort of value. And so that's what you're supposed to be working towards when you're building, the business in order to, for it to, continue to thrive.
Wow. That's
Sound
tough.
like I'm gonna need to make a phone call.
Yeah,
So
you need to make a couple phone calls. So if we're starting out and we want to buy a house and at a young age and we want to protect that house, what would be the process?
When you say protected, you mean
I mean,
keep it.
protect, yeah, like financially. I want to make sure like my heirs get it, or when you was talking about the land trust and the
So
living
that,
trust.
yeah, so that's just it. It depends on what your scenario looks like. So that varies from person to person. I like to say everybody don't need the same thing, but we all need something. So if you are, you know, a single person in your 20s, no children, no spouse, of course you will need to be thinking in terms of, if something were to happen to me today, who's going to get my, property. The laws of intestate succession says, your parents, get 50%. And then if you have any siblings, then they would split the other 50%. If that's not what you want to happen, then you would need to draft a will so that your property can be dispersed according to the will. The downside to the will is that with real estate, if you have real estate, if you don't have it in some sort of trust, the only way you can get it out of the deceased person's name is if you open up a probate estate. So I would say you always want to have a will, because you just need to have it as a byproduct in case, any other um, uh, estate planning things that you have in place fail. And then in that scenario, I probably would recommend the land trust for her, and she can name whatever beneficiary it is that she want, to have
Okay.
it.
Okay, and it's very important too, y'all, to get the credit together
Yeah.
because you can't be walking in them places and expecting them people to give you something because they're not gonna give it to you.
And so, yeah, correct. So that part happens before me, and I don't play
Right,
any part in the credit process
right,
because that's all, most real estate agents won't take you out unless you have at least a pre-approval from a lender.
right,
So the hope is by the time you get, to your real estate agent, that you work that part out, with a lender.
right,
And when you're talking to the lender, when you're talking about, a lot of them will say, "Oh yeah, we can close and trust." They tell you that to get you in the door. But then, when it come time and they get to me, then they tell me, "Well, no, we can't do that." And so now you're, you know, spent money on you put your earnest money down, you paid your loan fee if you have an application fee, you pay for your
four
appraisal,
hundred
you
dollars.
pay for your inspection.
where you get this number
you
from?
know, and
That's how much I paid for my loan
Yeah.
application.
yeah, and
Okay.
you're all
Yeah.
excited about moving into this house, and then you're faced with, oh, they say I can't put in the trust, so now what I do? And I'm like, you got to decide if you're gonna close in your name or not.
Well, I'm really really thankful for this advice because I got some work to do,
Hmm.
and I think I'm gonna let you do that work
Okay.
and get it together because it's a lot of things that you don't know as you get older.
Yeah.
And I was living with uh my ex-wife, and we lived and it's different
Hmm.
when you by yourself.
Yeah.
Now I'm by myself, so I'm thinking a little bit different. And as I get older, like I don't want to have no debts that my kids have to pay.
Yeah.
So your debts
We ain't
don't.
gonna pay him anyway.
So your children are not responsible for your debts, but how it works is, creditors are supposed to be paid before you take any assets or pass down. But you have to remember, those assets have to be in your estate. So if you don't have any assets in your name and they pass to your children by beneficiary designation, if there's no money, in CB Brown's account, at his death, that don't pass by beneficiary designation, what is there for a creditor to get? Right? If your house, is in the land trust and it passes by beneficiary designation, what is there for a creditor to get? There's nothing, because the only way.
So you're saying I don't know how long I'm gonna be here, but
I am not saying to go rack up debt and not pay it. I am not saying that. But what I am saying is,
because I got some cars the other day, I was like, oh Jesus, not this car right here. So, but what you are saying is,
if you plan your estate, and if things pass by beneficiary designation, then it's not part of probate. Because when you think about probate protects creditors. And so when you think in terms of claims in the classes, you have your burial, funeral expenses, administration expenses, and then you have claims, and they come in classes: first class claims, second class claims, and depending on, where that creditor fall, they will be classified that way. And then at the very end, after all claims are paid, there are the heirs. So if your only house is a house that you have that you transition in your name, when you transition, it's in your name, and that house is worth, let's say, $300,000. You don't have a mortgage, but you were sick, before you died, and you have, medical bills to the tune of $200,000. Before your children, I'm like, they can't just keep the house; they have to pay them claims, because that asset that you have is worth $300,000. So when you open up the probate estate in order to administer your estate, the house is going to be sold. Creditor claims are going to be paid before your children get anything, and then the balance will go to your heirs, whatever is left.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna come see you next week, because this is very important for me to get it right, and not prolong it, because I haven't went through that process since I bought this house 2 years ago, and I need to just get it right to make sure I'm protected, as well as my kids, the heirs, being protected, where they don't have to pay, anything for me. So
yeah, the other thing you have to think about too is, who gonna make the decision for you if you become sick or incapacitated and can't make it for yourself. So that's where power of attorneys for, property and healthcare come in, because you want to make sure that you name an agent to act on your behalf in the event that you cannot do it. And then for some people, families don't always get along, children, siblings don't always get along. And you could be, sitting there, and they need to make a decision, and they're arguing, stranger things have happened.
And see, then, then they might want to keep the house. You know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of different decisions. So, but in your, she had wrote it down. What's the most rewarding thing that you get out? I heard you say first home owners. That's rewarding to you. But what else is rewarding?
Yeah. So with real estate, I love my first time home buyers. When it comes to, so estate planning is my passion, and especially for our people, because we don't do it, since I have been
explain to us what estate planning is.
So estate planning is basically where you have a plan of action in order with respect to all of your assets that you own during your lifetime. You basically is putting a plan in place of how you want those assets to be distributed at your death. Okay. And so for a lot of, our people, in particular Black people, we don't plan our estates. We don't spend the money, to make sure that when we transition, that A, B, C, and D happen. And so that's why you end up with a lot of people, families fighting and bickering, about, you had a race to the bank. Somebody want to race to the house to try to make sure that they secure the premises and, get whatever mom or dad, had left there. And it just, without doing it, sometimes it's just a lot of confusion. So for me, I've had, and I have a heart for older people. And so a lot of times when they come to me, especially after they've paid, for their house to be paid in full, they'll say, I have, these children, I want, and they have it, down to the wire. If they want to leave a child something, they will. If they don't, they won't. And they'll have reasons for doing it. And so basically that's really what it is. So I love when our people come in, we take care of the business. And then I've had families come back to me, especially after, mom or dad transition. And it's just the paperwork is just a breeze.
Now, what's the difference between an estate planning and having a will?
So a will is part of the estate planning document. So I like to say what I consider to be a basic estate plan is a will, a living trust, a power of attorney for property, and a power of attorney for healthcare.
Okay.
With those, 4 things, you could basically, be set. And so what you put into those things depends on what you have. So if you have 401ks of substantial value, or, because maybe I should backtrack this way. In Illinois, if you have more than $100,000 in assets, you have to open up a probate estate. Okay. And that's assets in your name. If it's less than $100,000, and if you do not have any real property or real estate, you can use what's called a small estate affidavit. And it's basically a simple form that you would fill out to say, who the decedent was when they died, whether there was a will, if there were any claims, and then what assets. You would have to list the assets that they have. And then you would say at the end who's supposed to get what and what amount. And you'll give that to, if it's a bank account, you would take it to, Bank of America, for instance. If it's a 401k account, you would take it to, whoever holds that 401k account, and they will, give you the proceeds based on a small estate affidavit, as long as you have it completed properly. So the basic estate plan, in my opinion, can get you, everything that you need in order to make your, have your estate flow outside of probate. And that's as long as you fund it.
You are full of information, man. And you are a wealth of information. This is beautiful for me because there's a lot of people out there that just don't know.
Yeah.
And this is the reason why, we like people like you to come on the show to explain to us, share with us what's real.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they got these little games out here and whatever the case that they're playing. But this is real, the real deal. If I get a house and I got a little bit of equity in it, or whatever the case might be, how would that be distributed? People don't know that.
Yeah.
People don't know how to go about that process.
And the other part of this falls kind of under probate and, estate planning that a lot of people don't think about is if you have minor children. So we all know that life happens, and we don't know how or when it's going to happen. If you have minor children, you can transition, and then what's going to happen to your children? You have, some families that have, children by different, fathers. So if mom transitioned and she have, 3 children by 3 different fathers, if every father step up and say, I want to take, care of my children, which they should, it's their kid, you now have 3 children that are now separated, who may not, be, know their siblings anymore because of the death of, their mother. Sometimes even if you have the same parent, or if it's a married couple and both parents, die, at the same time, what's going to happen to my children? So if you have, minor children, you have to have a will so that you can say who it is that you want to take care of your children in the event that you transition. And so you're naming a guardian to take care of your children, and you're naming a guardian to take care if you have disabled children, or if you take care of a disabled adult, you would name a guardian in the will that you want the courts to appoint to take care of them in the event that you can. And so for individuals who have minor children or take care of adult disabled children, you need a will for sure.
Okay. So do you do 501c3?
I do. So that's part of my business practice.
Okay.
I'm actually working on one right now.
Okay, that'll work. But hey, listen, man, God bless you. Thank you for sharing everything with us because like I said earlier, some things we just don't know.
Yeah.
And we, we need to find out from people who know And for real people, I mean, you know, you the lawyer, you are the hero in the neighborhood, because you know we're cheering for you.
Okay.
Because we're cheering for you, and we want to expose you. Tell the people how they can get in contact with you, what your information is.
So I am in Broadview, 2121 Roosevelt Road, Broadview, Illinois. Zip code is 60115. I'm traditional. You can call me. You know, I do return telephone calls. My telephone number is 708-613-4433. I have staff, so if I'm not there, somebody will take a message. They'll, you know, get it to me. Sometimes I can't return phone calls the same day, but I always return my calls at least within 24 hours.
Okay. And to give the kids out there some words of wisdom that you would like to share with them.
Perseverance.
Folks,
yes.
Well,
I'm just gonna say perseverance. Keep trying. I don't know if you know it or not, but I applied to law school 7 years straight, twice a year before I was accepted.
Wow.
Yeah, and so you know, when I got the acceptance letter, it was a conditional approval. I had to go to, you know, the conditional program and finish with like a 2.5, you know, GPA in order to get full admission. And I like to tell people I was the last person that they let in, because I'll never forget, I went down, it was John Marshall at the time in Chicago, and I had to meet with the dean. And, you know, their whole, you know, all the law schools are, you know, fixated on, the bar passage rates. And so when they're looking at LSAT scores, and if your LSAT scores are not where they need to be, and if your GPA is not where it needs to be, that's how they're weeding you out and not taking you, you know. And so when I went, I had 2 babies by the time I graduated high school at Proviso East. So I went to college, you know, with my kids. And so you can imagine my grades, they weren't the best. I wasn't a straight A student in undergrad, but I remember telling Dane Powers, I was like, if I get in, you don't have to worry about me getting out. And I graduated in I did the part-time evening program, which is a 4-year program. And I did it in 3.5 years. So
that's what I'm talking about.
So it's like you can do it. And I passed the bar the first time. I was like, Lord, I can only take this one time.
That's how you do it.
That's impressive.
Well, listen, man, we're glad that you came. You blessed us with a wealth of information. I'll be knocking on your door next week, trying to get some things settled. But as we said, this is the Love Movement Podcast, and one of the things that we always tell our audience is treat people the way you want to be treated and never give up. And you see, she didn't give up. In 3.5 years, she did a 4-year program. And that's what we're all about. So everybody, hey, out there, thank you for watching us, and thank you for following us. And this is the Love Movement with the hottest goddess and the Shanita Straw that's doing her thing. Hey, listen, we're going to keep coming back, doing the right thing for everybody. Talk to you later. Love. Just got dressed, need something to get into. Pretty girl on deck.